Hey, I'm Andrew. I've lived in a van with my wife for the last 3 years, and I want to share with you today what this van lifestyle changes about a person. We've grown as people because of van life, but some of the paradigm shifts that were necessary for us to break free came before we started van life. I'm going to cover all that and more in a video that attempts to give you the educational immersion of van life without any of the compost toilet dumping or cell signal searching. In this, 5 things I learned from 3 years full-time van life. Real quick, please like and subscribe. I'm a brand new channel and I've got so much good stuff in store for you followers. Number 1, life can be hacked. We couldn't have even begun to think about building a van or starting van life unless we had considered alternative ways of living in the first place. Must have been as far back as 2016 when I found Finding Simon's Van Life channel and had my antennas up to receive a specific signal. Life can indeed be hacked. It started for me, like it will many watching this right now, by watching videos online not for educational or entertainment purposes, but from a desire for freedom. Vicariously living through our van life protagonist who will show us and teach us that freedom is indeed attainable. I said, maybe me too. I thought maybe, just maybe, the financial margins are worth the temporary significant effort and inconveniences of the road that van life requires. And I stand here at the finish line for you today saying it may actually be the best financial decision I've ever made, aside from marrying Heather. I'm not saying this to make you feel good or give you false hope. The honest truth is, while we were living in the van, almost every other day, one of us would turn to the other and say, I can't believe this is our life. It's not that our van is some magical shuttle perched with a view or that we're without wants. It's that we woke up every morning in something that we owned and we had control over the environment that we placed our home in. If I could capture that feeling in a word, it would be hope or freedom. And you gotta understand that's not even where we're at now. Where we're at now is that we've sold the van and are making even bigger plans than my former van building self could have even imagined. And you better believe it has a lot to do with not paying rent for 3 years and the sale price of the van making its way into our investment portfolio as we speak. And van life is not the only way. If you're stuck in a financial rut and considering van life for its financial margins, then do yourself a favor, go on YouTube and search cost of living in blank. And you can put anything in there. Put Vietnam, Scotland, Mexico, for example, Thailand. Moving overseas and doing remote work is a viable way to break free of financial bonds. Look into house sitting. There are van life people living in rich people's houses right now, legally, probably watching this video, sitting on a heated leather recliner sofa, petting an elegantly groomed Pomeranian, giggling each time they think of the mortgage they're not paying for it. Living on a boat is a thing. It's a thing in England, it's a thing in Cambodia, it's a thing in California, it's a thing in Florida. Boat life. I haven't dug too much into it, but I've lived vicariously through Gone with the Wind's channel for the last 8 years. Is that enough examples? I could go on because it's true, life can be hacked. My old defeatist attitude thought that this couldn't be true. The world is a series of traps. The corporate elite have us cornered.
Resistance is futile.
If you're watching this right now considering van life, then you're exactly like I was 5 years ago. Just some learning and a series of footsteps away from living rent-free. But only if you believe you can. Only if you believe life can be hacked. Number 2, people are the most important. The people. They did a 70-year study to discover what it was that made humans happiest throughout their lives. They asked each participant at the end of the year which memories were the most meaningful to them. And it was most often time spent with loved ones that defined that year for them. Now I know, we've all heard it, people suck. They suck so bad at times that it's easy to forget entirely that they're also incredibly beautiful, fragile, and comedic. The main reason we do anything is for our own comfort, but the second reason we do anything is for our friends and our family. You may want to spend your days in a comfy chair by yourself, but a couple weeks in and you'll be aching for the next soul who will entertain your theories. For us personally, we found we could go all over the country, but we'd reach a limit and the return was always sweet. The familiarity and free hugs. After months out on the road, a few hours chatting with good friends back home was like a hot bath. Therapeutic. Heather and I found it very difficult, being that we're in a town for 3 months and then moving on. to build deep connections. The longer that went on, the more I needed them. The good news is each time I got that human connection, I was fueled up for a time. Humans thrive when they're embedded in a community and they struggle in isolation. It's not the best news for introverts, but we just need to love and be loved at least a little. You can't escape having a heart on BLM land. Number 3, we have limits. I am a tripping, sneezing, hiccuping chimp with consciousness. I am not a robot. And even if I was, I'd still need to be oiled. The routine maintenance of our mental health and physical hygiene is never ending. And it's easy to think that once you've escaped one inconvenience, the obligation to make rent, that you might be able to escape the necessity of spiritual maintenance as well. Having attained enlightenment, you are no longer burdened by your ever-turning mind. Yeah, right. You might have relational conflicts to keep you up at night. You might be going through an identity crisis. Your thyroid might be a jerk. Something on you, whether it's your brain or your knee, is going to remind you that you're human. And that month-long Pacific Northwest circuit you had planned may just be the opposite of what your happiness requires. We have limits. Most of the time, I say, don't let fear win. Sometimes we gotta throw in the towel though. We think admitting we can't do something is weak, when really it's the most freeing thing ever. You mean I get to be flawed and the train doesn't run entirely off the rails? No way. We are a part of this beautiful ecosystem on this planet, and it cares for us because it cares for itself. We are it. It is us. And I see that this universe is perfectly willing to carve out a little hole for someone who needs recovering. Even the worst of us don't kick dogs when we're down. Ask for help and don't be surprised at the generosity of the universe. Take a break and watch the world go on just fine without you for a few days. Shocking that I'm a human and not a cement pillar in a building's foundation. Never bend, never break. Man, all we do is bend and break. My limit was apparently getting a perfect spot with a stunning view at a Riverside RV park, and then having it taken through a misunderstanding and being stuck for a month now looking at the side of the RV that just took it. I got so down, just slumped over accepting this situation for like a month straight. Before I snapped out of it, my brain turned back on and I Googled other places to stay, found this lovely KOA at the casino that we'd been going to every other night for dinner anyway. And I'll be honest, I'm the one that let that silly little inconvenience ruin a whole month for me. Because I have limits to my thinking too. The best solution does not always come to me. And these are just relevant matters to take into account when planning anything human. We are flawed babysitters of these meat suits we inhabit. We could give ourselves the grace that truth begs. Number 4, trust the universe. Knowing my limits means knowing that most things are outside of my control. And that truth is terrifying if you believe that this reality is the perfect blend of chaos that gives preferential treatment to cheaters. I heard it said, fear or faith, either way, you're believing in the unknown. I used to have the luxury to resent reality for being the way it is, but once my mental health reached a breaking point, I had to make that choice. How do I wish to see the world? With a perspective that paralyzes me or a perspective that mobilizes me? And this experiment got started 6 years ago. Maybe the future isn't disaster and villains lurking around every corner. Maybe it's harmony and the balancing of all things. Maybe it's the unstoppable force of life, the beautiful energy of all creatures getting a go at this 4K Ultra HD enhanced immersion video game. This is supremely important for van life. You can't possibly live out on the road and maintain any sort of mental health if you believe that disaster and villains are lurking. It paralyzes you. Humans are doing beautiful things to each other all over the world at this very moment. We just don't have news stations for it. You can trust the universe. You are it. It is you. 5. To thine own self be true. Oftentimes you have to be a student and you have to put another person above you in order to learn from them. They may know more about this one subject than you do, but they were not born with more critical thinking resources than you were. It is also very easy for someone in an advantaged position to take advantage of someone in a disadvantaged position, and for that person in that disadvantaged position to then feel less than inferior. We wind up in these dynamics in the workplace, with family, or in community groups. But all they do is signify the importance of trusting yourself and to do the important work of getting to know yourself and what you really think about important things, above everyone else's opinion of what you should be doing with your life. And if you don't do that critical work, then others will impress what they think you should be doing upon you to the point where you comply and settle for something you didn't want. The societal and peer pressure that you built up no immunity against. I had to journal. It was the inevitable next step for my growth. I was out of answers from the sources I had access to. The rest were within. And it wasn't until I read Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way that I got into the habit of stream of conscious journaling and discovered that I am the final judge for what is right for me, my personality, and my path. And I know it's a skill to develop. I know it's a chore. I know a lot of us aren't used to writing. I wasn't either. But the work of stream of conscious journaling or a written self-assessment has profound effects on your character, self-esteem, and self-confidence. If I could give every person on this planet with anxiety one gift, it would be the knowledge that their anxieties could be greatly curbed and oftentimes fully restrained by a written, honest conversation with oneself, where the goal is to move forward and make progress. And the practice of it is what finally set me free on loving and trusting myself. I, like a lot of people, had been wanting my entire life to love, value, and respect myself fully and in a sustainable way. After getting sober, building a van, touring the Pacific Northwest, and having an identity crisis, I looked deep within on several hundred mining expeditions with a keyboard and Google Docs to find the voice of love, confidence, and strength that I had been looking for all along. My own. If you are someone struggling to make progress in life, needing new perspective, or if you have questions about van life or your van build, I'm making myself available for life coaching and consulting services. There is a link in the description to fill out a very short application and get in touch with us. I love you. I think you're doing the best you can with the experience you have at the moment, and I think that anyone who thinks otherwise doesn't know you like I do. And I know you'll make progress. You can't help it. Your spirit is ever gently tugging. Man, all we do is bend and break. Man, all we do is bend and break. Man, all we do is bend. Man, all we do is bend and break. Man, all we do is bend and break. Man, all we do is bend and break.